Wait, that's allowed? Alien woman shocked by human customs.
Lyra looked out of the shuttle window, her pale blue eyes scanning the small human station floating in the void. She had traveled from the planet Kellara, a place where rules shaped every second of life, where questioning elders was almost forbidden, and freedom was only a word in history books. Here, in the human sector, things looked different. The station was smaller than she expected, with lights blinking softly along the corridors and windows showing the black emptiness of space. She could see humans moving quickly between rooms, carrying trays, talking, laughing, and even running at times. None of it made sense to her. The shuttle doors hissed open and a human stepped in to greet her. He was tall, with short brown hair, clear eyes, and a smile that seemed natural. "Welcome to Station Orion," he said. "I'm Ethan Brooks, your guide while you are here." Lyra inclined her head slightly. On Kellara, greetings were formal and measured, but this human seemed relaxed and almost too open. "I am Lyra," she said. Her voice was soft, melodic, and careful. "I am here to observe human behavior for my people." Ethan nodded. "Perfect. You'll see a lot. Humans are unusual, to say the least." As they walked through the corridors, Lyra noticed that people did not line up or bow to her as she expected. Some waved, some smiled, and some even joked with each other loudly while carrying equipment. She frowned slightly. On her, world order was strict. Chaos was dangerous. Here, chaos seemed normal. Maya Collins joined them in the main hall. She was shorter, with dark hair tied back and a friendly expression. "I'll be your language consultant," she said. "If anything here confuses you, I can explain it." Lyra nodded again, feeling a mix of curiosity and mild alarm. Their first stop was the cafeteria. Lyra had prepared herself for formal meal, structured and quiet, where each guest waited until the elder served them. Instead, she found humans laughing, talking, and carrying trays of food freely. She saw one young man, Liam Parker, drop his tray accidentally. Food spilled onto the floor, and instead of being scolded, Liam laughed, shrugged, and picked up a mop to clean it himself. A group of humans nearby clapped and made joking comments, making Liam smile even more. Lyra tilted her head. "They do not punish mistakes?" she asked Maya. "Not usually," Maya said with a grin. "Humans see mistakes as learning moments. We do not fear them." Lyra felt a small shiver. On Kellara, mistakes were dangerous. They could mean the end of a life, the end of a career, or worse. Humans seemed reckless, yet somehow calm. After lunch, Ethan took Lyra to the observation deck. Here, she could watch humans interact freely. He pointed out a group of engineers discussing a problem with the station's power systems. "Watch this," Ethan said. The engineers argued loudly. One young man, Noah Bennett, challenged an older engineer's plan. Lyra expected anger, punishment, or at least silence. Instead, the older engineer listened carefully, nodded occasionally, and then agreed to try Noah's suggestion. "They allowed him to speak against the elder?" Lyra asked, her voice barely hiding disbelief. "Yes," Ethan said. "Humans think that sometimes the youngest or newest person has the best idea. Age and rank do not always matter." Lyra's mind was racing. How could a society survive if anyone could challenge authority? She had spent years learning about human society before she arrived. Everything she read suggested they were fragile, prone to collapse, and easily defeated. Now she was beginning to wonder if the books had lied. Later, Lyra visited a human living area. She saw children running freely, laughing and shouting to each other. Parents watched from chairs but rarely intervened. When a child fell, the parents smiled and helped them up, but the child was allowed to continue playing without scolding. Lyra could not understand it. Children on Kellara were trained to behave perfectly or face strict consequences. Ethan noticed her puzzled expression. Humans trust that children will learn by themselves. We guide, but we do not force. We let them fail. Lyra made a small note in her datapad.
Humans allow failure.
Humans allow disagreement. Humans allow chaos. Observation, extremely inefficient. But then she watched something strange.
A young girl had dropped a small floating drone. It spun wildly and seemed broken. Two adults, instead of scolding, laughed and helped her fix it together. She looked proud when it worked again. Lyra realized that humans celebrated recovery, not perfection. This was entirely alien. That evening, Lyra attended a human social event. It was informal, with music, lights, and conversation. She stood near the edge, observing carefully. Ethan approached her.
"You look like you are judging everything," he said lightly.
"I am trying to understand," Lyra said. "How do humans survive with so few rules? How do they know what to do?" Ethan smiled. "We have instincts, trust, and cooperation.
Rules are guides, not chains. Humans think a little freedom makes us stronger, not weaker."
Lyra did not reply immediately. She saw humans encouraging each other, helping strangers, and laughing even when things went wrong. There was a sense of energy, unpredictability, and resilience she had never imagined. Later, a minor emergency occurred.
A small storage compartment caught fire due to a technical error. Alarms rang, but no one panicked.
Humans nearby grabbed fire extinguishers, helped each other, and quickly put out the fire. Lyra observed silently, astonished. On her planet, a similar incident would have caused strict punishment, isolation, and endless reports. Here, it was a learning experience, completed in minutes. Maya leaned close.
"See? Humans trust their instincts. We trust each other. We trust that problems can be solved without fear."
Lyra made another note. Observation. Humans possess resilience due to choice, not obedience. Initial assessment. Unpredictable and potentially dangerous. By the end of her first day, Lyra was exhausted. She had seen humans eat, speak, play, argue, fail, and recover, all freely.
Nothing fit the rigid models she had learned. She returned to her quarters, her mind spinning.
She had expected to see fragile, rule-bound creatures. Instead, she had seen life in its most chaotic, joyful, and dangerous form.
Before sleep, she recorded her first report. Humans are unpredictable. Their customs allow questioning, error, and chaos, yet they survive.
They laugh in the face of danger, and they trust each other in ways my people cannot understand. This society does not follow rules in the conventional sense.
This may be the key to their resilience. As she set the datapad down, she could not help a small smile.
Perhaps there was more to humans than she had been taught. Perhaps in their freedom they were stronger than any rigid system. And for the first time, Lyra wondered if her people had underestimated humanity. She drifted into sleep, her mind filled with images of humans laughing, failing, arguing, and yet surviving. It was a strange, confusing, and thrilling world, and she had only just begun to explore it. The first day had been shocking. The next day promised even more surprises. Humans, it seemed, did not follow the rules she knew. And Lyra had a long path ahead to understand why they were still alive and thriving. Lyra woke early the next day, her mind still buzzing from all she had seen.
The humans were different in every way.
Even their small habits seemed strange to her. She dressed carefully, smoothing her uniform, and left her quarters. Today she wanted to explore human daily life more closely, not just observe from the edges. Ethan was waiting for her in the main hall.
"Good morning, Lyra. Ready to see more of the human way?" he asked with a smile.
"Yes," Lyra said. Her voice was soft, but there was a hint of tension.
She still could not fully understand humans, and yet she was drawn to their chaos. They first visited the human work areas. Lyra watched engineers, programmers, and scientists move around. People were talking loudly, laughing, arguing, and sometimes walking away from tasks mid-project to help someone else. She could not comprehend it.
On Calira, leaving a task unfinished was punishable.
Here, it seemed normal. One young engineer, Jacob Fields, dropped a component he was holding. It bounced and almost fell to the floor. Instead of being scolded, his colleague, Olivia Hart, caught it mid-air. They laughed together, and Jacob thanked her warmly. Lyra tilted her head.
"Why is there no punishment?" she asked Maya. "Humans are allowed to make mistakes," Maya said. "It is how we learn. Failure is not shameful. It is natural."
Lyra frowned. The concept was difficult. She had been trained to follow rules perfectly, to avoid mistakes at all costs. Humans seemed reckless, yet they were alive, energetic, and somehow productive. Next, they visited the station's recreation area. Humans were exercising, playing games, and talking with each other freely. Lyra observed a group of humans competing in a zero-gravity game. They laughed loudly when someone bumped into a wall floating out of control.
One man, Eli Turner, spun wildly and landed softly on a padded floor. Instead of anger, everyone cheered.
Lyra could not hide her surprise.
They celebrate errors? She asked quietly.
"Yes," Ethan said. "We call it learning through fun. Humans recover quickly. We trust ourselves to adapt."
Lyra watched carefully. The humans seemed alive in ways she had never experienced. Their energy was contagious.
Their freedom made them unpredictable, yet they seemed to thrive on it. During lunch, Lyra observed another unusual human custom.
People were allowed to speak their minds freely, even in disagreement. She overheard Hannah Lee, a young scientist, argue with her senior about the schedule for repairs. The conversation was loud, passionate, and filled with emotion. Lyra expected reprimand, but the senior simply listened, nodded, and then adjusted the plan according to Hannah's suggestion. "Even the youngest or least experienced voice is considered?" Lyra asked Maya. "Humans believe ideas matter more than rank or age. If someone has a better plan, we use it. It keeps us flexible and strong,"
Lyra wrote in her datapad.
Observation: humans value creativity and initiative over obedience. Behavior contradicts all prior assumptions.
After lunch, Ethan took Lyra to the living quarters. She watched humans relax in personal spaces. Some were reading, some were talking with friends, and some were even singing quietly. What shocked Lyra most was how freely people expressed emotions. On Kellara, showing anger, fear, or even joy openly was rare. Humans here smiled, frowned, laughed, and cried without restriction. She saw Caleb Morris, a young technician, arguing loudly with his roommate about a misplaced tool. They shouted, gestured, and even threw a soft cushion at each other. After a few minutes, they laughed and hugged.
Lyra could not understand the cycle. Conflict did not lead to punishment or isolation. It ended in cooperation and even warmth. "They resolve conflict through emotion and dialogue?" she asked Maya.
"Yes," Maya said. "We believe that understanding emotions leads to stronger bonds."
Silence or suppression can cause harm. Humans trust each other to recover from arguments. Lyra made another note. Observation: humans allow emotional expression, even in conflict.
Outcome often increases unity, not division. Later, Lyra attended a public forum on the station.
Humans gathered to discuss policies, even those involving alien visitors. People were loud, they questioned decisions openly, and they sometimes interrupted leaders. Lyra expected chaos. She saw humans arguing passionately, but also listening, compromising, and adapting. Even when disagreements were heated, no one lost respect entirely. A man named Ryan Hayes stood up and openly questioned a senior officer's strategy. The officer explained calmly, then adjusted the plan slightly to include Ryan's suggestions. The room erupted in polite applause. Lyra tilted her head, unsure if this was intelligence or madness.
"They allow anyone to speak to leaders directly?" she asked.
"Yes," Ethan said. "We think authorities should be flexible. People are allowed to challenge ideas, not always leaders themselves, but often both. It keeps the system strong."
Lyra felt her head spin. On Kellara, challenging a leader was dangerous, often fatal.
Here, it was encouraged, applauded even. That evening, Lyra joined a small group of humans in a cooking session.
She watched as they chopped vegetables, stirred sauces, and accidentally spilled ingredients. No one scolded anyone else. They laughed, tried again, and shared the food freely. Lyra tried to mimic their gestures, but she was stiff, careful, and precise. Her mistakes were obvious, yet the humans only smiled at her. "You are learning fast," said Sophie Lane, a young chef.
Humans enjoy trying. Don't worry about doing it perfectly.
Lyra noted in her datapad. Observation. Humans reward effort, not perfection.
Failure is tolerated and often celebrated.
Later that night, she observed humans in their private quarters. Some were playing musical instruments, some were reading, and some were talking quietly with friends or loved ones. What fascinated her most was the level of freedom. Humans were allowed to choose how they spent their time, how they expressed themselves, and even how they disagreed. It was a stark contrast to the rigid structure she knew. Lyra began to see a pattern.
Humans were allowed choice at every level of life. They could fail, speak freely, express emotion, and recover.
They were unpredictable yet productive. They were chaotic yet resilient. It was a system that she could not fully understand, but she sensed it had a hidden strength. Before sleeping, Lyra reflected on the day.
She had seen humans laugh at failure, argue without fear, and trust each other to survive. Her datapad was full of notes, but she was still confused.
How could such a society thrive? How could it survive when rules were optional?
She wrote her report carefully. Humans allow personal choice, error, and free expression. They resolve conflict through communication and emotion rather than punishment. They trust each other to recover from mistakes. Observation. Humans are unpredictable and seemingly chaotic, yet they maintain resilience and adaptability.
Conclusion. Their customs, though strange, may be their greatest strength. Even as she wrote, Lyra felt a small thrill of curiosity. There was a wild energy to humans that she had never experienced. They were not perfect, but they were alive. Their freedom made them unpredictable, but it also made them strong. She closed her datapad and looked out the window at the stars. Perhaps her mission would be more complicated than she thought. Studying humans would not just be about recording behavior.
She would need to understand their customs, their freedom, and their strange ability to thrive in chaos. And Lyra knew one thing for certain. The next day would bring even more surprises. Humans did not follow rules, and they were still alive. She lay down, her mind full of questions, and for the first time wondered if she might learn something from these chaotic, unpredictable creatures. Lyra woke to a loud alarm. Her first instinct was to tense, ready to follow strict emergency procedures as she would have on Kelleria. But then she remembered, humans did not always follow rules. She dressed quickly and went to the station control room with Ethan and Maya. Inside, the room was chaotic but controlled. Humans moved in every direction, talking loudly, gesturing, and checking screens. A warning light flashed red. A solar flare had disrupted the station's energy grid, causing minor system failures. Lyra felt a rush of panic. On her world, such an event would require strict order, command chains, and waiting for permission. Here, humans were already acting.
Ethan pointed to a group of engineers. Look at them. No orders needed. They know what to do.
Lyra watched as Jacob Fields and Olivia Hart ran to the power panels. They argued briefly about the best way to reroute energy. Lyra expected someone to intervene and stop them. Instead, they worked together, adjusting circuits, flipping switches, and monitoring readouts. Sparks flew, lights blinked, and yet they moved with confidence. "They are improvising," Lyra whispered to Maya.
Yes, Maya said.
Humans trust instincts.
We do not wait for permission if the station is at risk. We act and adapt.
Lyra felt a mix of fear and fascination. She had never seen such freedom in action. The humans were bending the rules, ignoring protocols, and yet they were effective. She quickly recorded her observations. Humans trust initiative over strict procedure.
Chaos is tolerated, even embraced when necessary. Suddenly, a small explosion sounded near the storage area.
Smoke filled the corridor. Lyra froze.
On Kellerah, such an incident would require evacuation and strict blame investigation. Here, humans ran toward the smoke. Claire Morgan, a medic, grabbed a fire extinguisher and led a group to put out the fire. Others followed, some helping injured crew members, others securing equipment.
Lyra could not understand it. Humans were risking themselves without waiting for orders. They were acting freely, confidently, and without fear of punishment. She watched Claire spray the extinguisher while yelling instructions.
Everyone listened, adapted, and executed perfectly. The fire was out within minutes.
They do not fear consequences? Lyra asked Maya. Sometimes we do, Maya said, but fear does not stop action. Humans value problem-solving over punishment. Lyra was amazed. She began to see a pattern. Humans survive not by obedience, but by flexibility. Their strength was not in following rules perfectly, but in knowing when to break them. As the emergency subsided, Ethan led Lyra to the observation deck. Outside, they could see the station's solar panels glinting in the flare's light. Crew members worked together in zero gravity, repairing minor damages, communicating without command chains, and improvising solutions. Lyra could not help but marvel at their coordination. They succeed despite disorder? She asked softly. Yes, Ethan said. Sometimes disorder is necessary. Humans adapt faster than any rigid plan. Later, Lyra joined a meeting with the station's leadership. She watched as humans debated strategy. Noah Bennett, a junior officer, openly disagreed with a senior leader. Lyra expected reprimand or silence. Instead, the senior officer listened, asked questions, and incorporated parts of Noah's idea into the plan. The discussion was loud, emotional, and passionate. Lyra's mind struggled to comprehend it. They allowed disagreement in critical situations? She asked Maya. Yes, Maya said. Humans believe that the best solution can come from anyone. Even a junior voice matters if it improves the outcome. Lyra wrote in her datapad. Observation. Humans allow challenges to authority even during emergencies. Outcome is prioritized over hierarchy. System encourages innovation. That evening, Lyra visited the station's medical bay. She observed humans tending to injured crew members. Unlike on Kellerah, where mistakes were punished, here humans encouraged creativity. A young medic, Aidan Clark, tried a new method to stabilize a minor injury. Another medic, Sophie Lane, suggested adjustments. They worked together, experimenting, laughing, and learning. Lyra realized that humans viewed failure as a path to improvement, not a source of shame. They experiment even with life at risk? Lyra asked Maya. Yes, Maya said calmly. We trust each other. We learn faster when we are allowed to try, fail, and adapt. Lyra's datapad was full. Her report was evolving rapidly. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic, and reckless by her standards. Yet they survived, thrived, and even improved in crisis situations. She began to see a hidden intelligence behind their apparent disorder. The next morning, Lyra accompanied Ethan on a station inspection. They walked through corridors where minor damages were already repaired. Humans moved freely, sharing tools, correcting mistakes, and helping each other without waiting for permission. Lyra noted the absence of fear, the absence of strict enforcement, and the presence of trust. They are free, she said quietly, and yet they accomplish more than my structured reports predicted. Yes, Ethan said with a smile. Freedom can be dangerous, but it also builds strength. Humans survive because we adapt, not because we obey. During lunch, Lyra observed a social experiment. Humans were allowed to vote on a minor policy regarding recreational areas. The debate was loud and chaotic. Some disagreed passionately, others joked, and some changed their minds multiple times. In the end, the final decision was a compromise that incorporated many ideas. Lyra was amazed. On Kellerah, such debate would have been forbidden or tightly controlled. Here, debate produced practical results. They turn disagreement into action? Lyra whispered to Maya. Yes, Maya said.
Humans know that no single plan is perfect. Discussion improves outcomes. That afternoon, Lyra attended a small training exercise in the station's zero-gravity field.
Humans practiced emergency responses, but with freedom. They could suggest new techniques, modify procedures, and challenge instructors. Lyra watched as Eli Turner corrected a trainer's method, and the adjustment worked better. The trainer nodded, smiling, and allowed Eli's method to be used. Lyra realized that humans trusted results over rank, efficiency over protocol. They
Bend rules when needed, she asked.
Yes, Ethan said. Humans bend rules to survive, not to rebel. Flexibility is our greatest strength. By evening, Lyra returned to her quarters. She was exhausted but exhilarated. Humans were unpredictable, yet effective.
They made mistakes, argued, experimented, and challenged authority, but somehow they succeeded. She had learned more in these 2 days than in her years of training.
She recorded her report carefully. Humans in crisis show remarkable adaptability. They act without waiting for permission, improvise solutions, and accept responsibility for outcomes.
Failure is tolerated
And used as a learning tool. Observation, flexibility, trust, and choice create resilience that rigid systems cannot achieve. Conclusion: humans may survive situations that rigid civilizations would fail to endure. Lyra lay back and stared at the stars. She began to understand why humans were alive, even thriving. It was not luck or strength alone.
It was their freedom, their ability to bend rules, challenge authority, and recover from mistakes that gave them power. For the first time, she felt a strange respect.
Humans were not just chaotic creatures. They were intelligent, resilient, and surprisingly strong. She wondered if her people had underestimated them. And Lyra knew that tomorrow would bring more lessons. Humans did not just survive crises. They thrived because they chose to act, to trust, and to adapt. The solar flare was over. The station was safe. And yet, Lyra felt the thrill of discovery. She realized that the true power of humans was hidden in their unpredictability.
Chaos, choice, and freedom. These were not weaknesses, they were strengths.
Lyra closed her eyes, thinking about the next day. She would observe humans in even more challenging situations.
Perhaps she would see limits to their freedom, or perhaps she would see even more evidence of their hidden strength. Either way, she knew that studying them would require her to rethink everything she had learned.
Humans, it seemed, were more than just strange and chaotic. They were alive in ways that Lyra could not have imagined,
and she was determined to understand why. The warning came without drama at first.
A soft tone echoed through the station, followed by a calm human voice announcing an unidentified fleet entering the outer sensor range.
Lyra was in the observation deck when she heard it. She felt her body stiffen at once. On Kalira, an alert like this would trigger full lockdown, silence, and absolute command control. Instead, the station stayed alive. People looked up from their work.
Some frowned. Some swore quietly. Others immediately began moving, not in panic, but with purpose. Conversations started everywhere at once. Lyra watched in disbelief as humans talked openly about the threat, even joked nervously while walking toward their assigned areas. Ethan appeared beside her.
His expression was serious now, but calm. "Looks like this will be a real test," he said.
"A hostile force?" Lyra asked.
"Possibly," Ethan replied. "Unknown ships! No response to hails yet!" Lyra's mind raced. Unknown fleets meant danger. On her world, this would mean strict silence and waiting for orders from the highest authority.
Here, she already saw engineers, pilots, and civilians discussing options openly. They moved toward the command center. Inside, the room was loud. Screens showed strange ship shapes drifting closer. Officers, technicians, and analysts spoke at the same time. Lyra expected chaos, but there was a strange rhythm to it. People interrupted each other, argued, corrected mistakes, and shared ideas freely. A senior officer spoke.
"We do not know their intent, Defensive posture only. Almost immediately, Noah Bennett spoke up. If they are probing, passive defense makes us look weak. We should show readiness without aggression. Another officer disagreed.
That could be seen as a threat. Noah shrugged. Or as confidence. The debate grew intense. Voices overlapped. Lyra felt her chest tighten. This was madness. They were arguing during first contact with a possible enemy.
And yet, Maya said quietly beside her, this is how humans think best. Lyra watched closely. No one was punished for speaking out. No one demanded silence. Instead, the ideas were tested, challenged, and shaped. Finally, a mixed plan was chosen. Defensive systems would power up, but ships would hold position. A clear signal of readiness, not fear. The unidentified fleet continued to drift closer.
Then a new alert sounded. One of the unknown ships launched a drone toward the station. Lyra's breath caught.
That is an act of aggression!
Yes, Ethan said. Or a test.
Automated systems tracked it but did not fire. Instead, a group of technicians rushed to modify sensor output.
Lyra saw Jacob Fields and Olivia Hart arguing while typing rapidly.
It will slip past passive scans, Olivia said.
Then we changed the scan angle, Jacob replied. That breaks protocol. So does getting boarded, Jacob said.
They did not wait for permission. The drone was detected clearly and disabled by a targeted pulse. It drifted harmlessly into space. Lyra stared.
They broke protocol!
Yes, Ethan said, because the rule did not fit the moment. Her datapad felt heavy in her hands. Humans were not just flexible in daily life. They were flexible under threat. The unknown fleet reacted. Several ships shifted formation. Weapons did not fire, but power readings spiked. The station braced. What followed was not silence, but movement. Civilians were allowed to help.
Engineers shared ideas across departments. Pilots argued openly with commanders about flight paths.
Medics prepared for injuries while suggesting safer shelter routes for non-combat crew. Lyra noticed something else.
No one waited to be told they mattered. Everyone assumed they did.
In one corridor, she saw Caleb Morris helping move equipment. He slipped, cursed, and laughed as another crew member helped him up.
Still time for humor? Lyra asked Maya. Especially now, Maya replied.
Humor keeps fear from taking control. The first shot came from the unknown fleet. It was not aimed to destroy, but to damage external sensors. The station shook. Lights flickered. Lyra grabbed the railing, heart racing. Humans reacted instantly. Some yelled warnings. Others rerouted power. A pilot team launched defensive drones without waiting for formal command approval. Lyra watched Ethan speak rapidly into a communicator, coordinating 3 teams at once.
There is no central control,
Lyra said, shocked.
There is,
Ethan replied.
It is shared. The second shot missed. The third never came.
Instead, a signal arrived, a short message filled with sharp tones and rigid structure.
The translation software worked quickly. The message was simple. The unknown species demanded submission and control of the station. Lyra felt cold.
On Kellera, this would mean surrender. Survival came through obedience.
Humans reacted differently. The command room erupted into debate.
We cannot fight a full fleet, but we cannot surrender either. They will dominate us if we yield. They are testing resolve. Lyra saw fear now. Real fear. But it did not stop discussion. It sharpened it.
Claire Morgan entered the room, still wearing her medic gear.
If we surrender, people will die anyway.
Slowly. I have seen what forced control does. Her voice mattered, even here. Aiden Clark added,
We can disable their lead ship sensors without lethal force. It is risky, but it sends a message. Against orders, someone said. Orders written for different wars, Aiden replied.
Silence followed. Then the senior officer nodded.
Do it! Lyra's eyes widened. The rules were bent again.
The plan was dangerous. A small team would manually guide drones through unpredictable energy fields to blind the lead ship's sensors without destroying it.
If it failed, the team would be exposed. Volunteers step forward at once. Not ordered. Volunteers.
Eli Turner smiled nervously as he joined the team. Guess this is one of those days. Lyra could not understand it.
Why would anyone choose danger freely? The operation began.
Lyra watched the screens as drones moved with human-guided precision. The unknown fleet tried to react, but confusion spread among them.
Their lead ship lost targeting ability. The rest hesitated.
Then, slowly, the fleet began to withdraw. No cheers erupted. Humans exhaled. Some laughed weakly.
Some sat down, some hugged.
The threat was gone. Lyra felt her legs weaken. She sat down, overwhelmed. They disobeyed, she said softly. They argued. They improvised. They risked themselves without command.
Yes, Ethan said.
And the station still stands. Later, as repairs began, Lyra walked through the corridors. Damage was minimal. No one was punished. Instead, teams discussed what worked and what did not. Mistakes were admitted openly. I should have adjusted the signal earlier. I should have listened faster. We can do better next time. Lyra had never seen this. On her world, failure meant blame. Here, failure meant learning. That night, Lyra recorded her longest report yet. Humans under threat do not become silent.
They become louder. They argue, question, and adapt in real time.
Authority is flexible. Courage is voluntary. Obedience is secondary to survival and dignity. Observation, human defiance is not chaos.
It is coordination through trust. She paused, then added another line. Conclusion. Humans are dangerous not because they ignore rules, but because they know when rules no longer serve life. Lyra set the datapad aside and stared at the stars. For the first time, she felt something unfamiliar. Admiration. Humans were not weak.
They were not disorganized. Their freedom was not a flaw.
It was a weapon, and Lyra realized that if her people ever faced humanity as enemies, strict rules and blind obedience would not be enough.
Humans would bend. Humans would adapt.
And humans would survive. She wondered what her people would think when they read her report. And she wondered what would happen when humans decided that freedom was worth defending again. The station drifted quietly through space, repaired and alive, full of voices, laughter, and argument. And Lyra knew the final part of her mission was approaching. She was no longer just observing humans. She was beginning to understand them. The next morning, Lyra woke early. She had spent the night thinking about humans.
Every day, she observed, she was more surprised. They were unpredictable, chaotic, and yet incredibly strong. Even after the threat from the unknown fleet, life on the station was calm, as if nothing had happened. Humans had faced danger, argued, risked their lives, and survived, and now they were already planning the next day. Ethan met her in the main hall. Morning, Lyra.
You look thoughtful. I am thinking about humans, she said quietly. Their ways are different, and yet effective.
He smiled. They are.
They surprise everyone at first. Then, if you watch long enough, you see the reason behind it. Lyra nodded slowly. She still struggled to understand, but she wanted to learn more before leaving. Today, she would finalize her observations. She would see humans in their daily life again, away from emergencies, to understand their true nature.
They walked to the recreation area. Children ran freely in zero-gravity fields. Teens practiced games with flying discs, occasionally bumping into each other and laughing. Adults exercised, joked, and sometimes argued over rules of games.
Lyra noticed a pattern she had not fully seen before. Freedom was a constant in human life. No matter what the situation, humans were allowed to act, speak, fail, and recover.
They always choose? Lyra asked Maya.
Yes, Maya said. Choice is a constant.
Even in play, even in work.
It is part of how humans build trust and strength. Lyra recorded the observation carefully. Observation. Humans value choice and autonomy at all levels. Freedom is continuous, not temporary. It creates resilience and adaptability. Afterwards, they visited the station library. Humans were reading, studying, and discussing books.
Lyra observed a debate between two students, Ava Collins and Lucas Reed, over a historical event. Their voices were raised, their gestures large, yet they listened carefully to each other's points.
In the end, both nodded, laughing, and agreed to continue the debate over dinner. Even when they disagree, Lyra said, they respect each other. Yes, Ethan replied. Humans learn from discussion. Disagreement does not destroy trust. Lyra paused, considering this.
On Kellara, debate was controlled. Disagreement often led to punishment, social exclusion, or worse.
Humans, however, used disagreement as a tool. It strengthened ideas and bonds. Later, Lyra visited the human dining area. She observed how meals were shared. People ate together, talked freely, and joked. She watched a small group, including Noah Bennett and Sophie Lane, perform a playful competition to see who could eat the spiciest food without drinking water. Laughter filled the room. No one scolded them. No one called it childish or dangerous. They enjoy freedom, even in small ways? Lyra asked Maya.
Yes, Maya said. Every choice, every action is part of life. Humans celebrate freedom in small and large ways. It is a constant in how we live.
By mid-afternoon, Lyra joined Ethan and a group of humans in the training field. Today, exercises were voluntary. Humans could suggest drills, change rules, and experiment. Lyra noticed Caleb Morris improvise a new training method, and others quickly adopted it. The instructor nodded, smiled, and adjusted the session. They adapt naturally? Lyra asked.
Yes, Ethan said. Humans trust experience and instinct. We adapt because rules cannot predict every moment. Lyra began to understand.
Humans were strong because they were allowed to act, not because they were forced to obey. Their society was flexible, resilient, and self-correcting.
Chaos was not a flaw. It was a strength.
Later, Lyra accompanied Maya to the medical bay. She observed medics treating minor injuries, laughing, joking, and giving advice freely. One patient, a young engineer, admitted he had made a mistake that caused equipment damage. The medics did not punish him but deprecated. Instead, they discussed ways to prevent the error in the future. Lyra's mind raced. Observation. Humans do not punish mistakes. They learn and improve.
Freedom encourages accountability rather than fear. As evening approached, Lyra walked to the observation deck alone.
She looked at the stars and thought about her mission. She had spent days recording human behavior, watching them work, play, argue, and survive threats. She realized something profound. Humans were more than unpredictable. They were alive in a way her people could never understand.
Their freedom, their choice, and their ability to adapt made them powerful. Ethan joined her quietly. Thinking? He asked. Yes, Lyra said. I am trying to understand. Humans survive, even thrive, because they are free, not because they obey rules. Ethan nodded. Freedom is risky, but humans trust it, trust each other, trust themselves. Lyra considered this. On Kellara, rules and obedience were the path to survival. Humans had shown her a different path. Trust, choice, and flexibility.
She began to realize why they were alive, why her people might underestimate them at their peril. That night, Lyra began her final report. She wrote carefully, detailing everything she had observed.
Humans allowed mistakes. They challenged authority.
They disagreed loudly. They acted without orders when necessary. They expressed emotions freely. They learned through play, discussion, and experimentation.
They adapted quickly in emergencies. Their society was chaotic by appearance, but it created resilience no rigid system could match.
She paused. The words on her datapad felt strange. She had begun to admire them. They were not weak.
They were alive, unpredictable, and strong, her final conclusion read. Humans are dangerous not because of weapons or technology. They are dangerous because they understand freedom, trust, and adaptability. Any attempt to control them through rigid rules will fail. Their strength lies in their unpredictability, an ability to act boldly in the face of danger. After finishing, she leaned back and stared at the stars.
She thought of Kelira, of strict rules, of obedience and control. She thought of humans, laughing, arguing, improvising, and surviving. A strange feeling rose in her chest, something she had never experienced before. Respect?
Admiration? Perhaps even hope.
She was about to leave the station soon, but she realized she could not simply report what she had learned. She could not reduce humans to words on a page.
There was something more, something vital. She had seen it with her own eyes, felt it in their presence.
Humans were alive in a way that demanded attention, even loyalty. Lyra stood and walked through the corridors one last time. She watched Jacob Fields and Olivia Hart repairing a minor system error. She saw Noah Bennett teaching a younger crew member a new technique. She saw Claire Morgan laughing softly with a patient.
Everywhere, humans were alive, free, and fully themselves.
She stopped in the central hall. The crew had gathered for a small celebration.
They had repaired the damage from the previous threats, and life had returned to normal. Lyra felt the warmth of the room. She realized humans did not need perfection. They did not need control. They needed trust, choice, and freedom, and that was enough.
Ethan approached her.
"Are you ready to leave?" he asked.
Lyra shook her head slightly.
"I have learned more than I expected, but I am not sure I can leave without sharing what I feel. Humans are not just study material. They are alive."
Ethan nodded, understanding.
You can share whatever you want. Your people will listen.
But perhaps you also take a part of this understanding with you. Lyra smiled faintly. Yes, I will take it.
Freedom, choice, trust. Humans have taught me something no rule ever could.
The next day, Lyra transmitted her final report. It was honest, detailed, and filled with her personal reflections. She warned her people, "Underestimate humans at your peril. Their strength was hidden, invisible to those who expected order and obedience.
Their chaos was their power." After sending the report, she walked to the observation deck one last time.
The station glowed softly under the stars. Humans were everywhere, alive in their freedom, laughing, working, arguing, and surviving. Lyra knew she would never forget them. For the first time, she understood that life was not just about rules and obedience.
It was about trust, choice, and the courage to act even when the outcome was unknown. Humans lived fully because they chose to live fully.
She took a deep breath and looked at Ethan.
"I understand now," she said. "Freedom is allowed, and it is powerful."
Ethan smiled.
"Yes, it is allowed, and it is human," Lyra nodded.
Her mission was complete, but her journey of understanding had only begun. She had arrived expecting to observe. Instead, she had learned. She had seen courage, chaos, and resilience that no rigid system could match.
As her shuttle prepared for departure, she turned once more to look at the humans. They waved, laughed, and went about their lives.
Lyra smiled softly. Humans were not perfect.
They did not follow all the rules. They did not obey blindly.
And yet, they survived. And in their freedom, they were unstoppable. Lyra felt a strange warmth as she left the station. Her report would warn her people, but she also carried a personal truth. Humans were not just study subjects. They were living proof that life could thrive through choice, trust, and courage. And in that moment, she understood why humanity had survived against all odds. Humans were free, humans were alive, and humans, Lyra realized, were extraordinary.